Assalamu alaikum dear students. Today we will discuss the digestive system of human beings, and in our previous lecture you came to know the digestive system of the human beings is endodermal in origin, and so far as the body plan of the human beings is concerned, I in my previous lecture told you that we have a tube within a tube body plan, and there are two linings in our digestive system which are ectodermal in origin. Rest of all parts of the digestive system are endodermal in origin, and it is the lining of the mouth and it is the lining of the anus which is ectodermal in origin. So the human digestive system consists of different structures or the different organs. Human digestive system consists of mouth. Human digestive system then consists of buccal cavity or the oral cavity, isn't it? And human digestive system then consists of the pharynx, then it consists of the esophagus, then it consists of stomach, then it consists of the intestines, which are present in our digestive system in two formats. Number one format is the small intestine and the another format is large intestine. Besides that, these are the main parts of our digestive system. However, our digestive system has been provided with some accessory structures. The accessory structures will include the salivary glands, it will include the liver, it will include our pancreas. So today we will be discussing the different parts or the anatomy of the different parts of human digestive system. The first part of the human digestive system is known as mouth. What is mouth? Mouth होता क्या है? Mouth एक opening है for our digestive system which communicates our internal system with the external system. How that communication takes place later on we will come to know. But here we will say that mouth is just like an opening of our long digestive tube or gastrointestinal tract. And you know, externally mouth is covered with the two folds known as lips. जो हमारा मुंह होता है externally it is covered by two folds. One is upper and another is lower. The upper fold is known as the upper labium, or we can say it as it is our upper lip, और नीचे से होता है next lip known as lower labium or the lower lip. ठीक है. So lips are guarding our slit like opening, isn't it? And when we will open these lips, अगर हम lips को थोड़ा बाहर निकालते हैं तो उसके बाद there is presence of our gingiva or gums. उसके बाद गम्स होते हैं. एंड हेयर ये जो लिप्स और गम्स के बीच में इंटरमीडिएट ये जो रीजन होता है दैट रीजन इज कॉल्ड एज वेस्टिब्यूल. से ये आपका लोअर लिप या अपर लिप है, उसके अंदर जब आप जाते हो तो आपको ये गम्स मिलते हैं, isn't it? और इन गम्स और आपके लिप्स के बीच में जो ओपन स्पेस होती है, ठीक है, तो let me write down here, make down here that this is the open space between your gums and your lips. That open space is known as vestibule. ठीक है, इस open space को vestibule कहते हैं. ठीक है. अब जो आपका अपर लिप होता है, जब आप उसको इंटरनली देखते हो तो इसके सेंट्रल रीजन पे एक एलिवेशन सी होती है. ठीक है. जो आपका अपर लिप है, अगर आप अपनी टांग को अपने अपर लिप के इंटरनल साइड में ऐसे करके देखोगे तो आपको अपना जो अपर लिप है उसका जो इंटरनल साइड और सेंट्रल रीजन है वहां पे आपको एक एलिवेशन सी मिलती है. एंड दैट एलिवेशन इंटरनली विच इज प्रेजेंट विद रेस्पेक्ट टू द सेंट्रल पार्ट ऑफ आवर अपर लिप, दैट एलिवेशन इज नोन एज supralabial frenulum. That is known as supralabial frenulum. ठीक है. इसी तरह जो आपका लोअर लिप है, अगर आप इंटरनली देखोगे या अपने मिरर को आगे रखोगे फिर आप अपने लिप को ऐसे टेढ़ा करोगे, फिर आप अपने लोअर लिप के सेंट्रल रीजन पे एक छोटी सी एलिवेशन देखोगे। उस छोटी सी एलिवेशन को कहते हैं इंफ्रालेबियल फ्रेन्यूलम। infralabial frenulum. This is also known as superior labial frenulum and it is also known as inferior labial frenulum. And the space between your lips and gums is known as vestibule. ठीक है? And after that, when you will be opening your mouth, then you will find a cavity. अगर आप अपने मुंह को खोलोगे तो अंदर से आपको एक बड़ी सी कैविटी देखने को मिलेगी। उस कैविटी को क्या कहते हैं? बकल कैविटी। And your buccal cavity has been provided with so many structures. Some are responsible for digestion, some structures are responsible for your speech, some structures are responsible for the mechanical breakdown of the food. And in this buccal cavity, as such, you have been provided with different structures, like there is presence of tongue in your buccal cavity, ठीक है? And there is also presence of tongue, there is presence of gums, isn't it? And there is presence of teeth. And so far as your tongue is concerned, it is a muscular structure, isn't it? जो आपकी टंग है ये एक मस्क्यूलर स्ट्रक्चर है और प्रोट्रूसिबल स्ट्रक्चर है। यहाँ पे आप लिख सकते हो, एक आपकी जो टंग है वो मस्क्यूलर है और वो एक प्रोट्रूसिबल स्ट्रक्चर है, ठीक है? यानी आप अपनी टंग को अपने लिप्स के बाहर भी निकाल सकते हो और उसको वापस अपनी जगह पे ला सकते हो। दिस टंग इज कॉल्ड एज प्रोट्रूसिबल टंग और ये मस्क्यूलर है और जो मसल्स इसमें लगे हैं वो स्केलेटल मसल्स है। और आप लोगों को पता है जहां पर स्केलेटल मसल्स होते हैं उनका जो मूवमेंट होता है वो आपके विल के कंट्रोल में होता है। से आई विल बी एग्जिबिटिंग सम मूवमेंट्स, जैसे मैं कोई मूवमेंट करता हूं, मैं आपको सैल्यूट करता हूं, मैं अपना हैंड आपके साथ शू कर लेता हूं या मैं ऑफर नमाज कर लेता हूं, ठीक है? इन सारे मूवमेंट्स को एग्जिबिट करने के लिए मेरे वॉलंटरी जो पार्ट्स है मेरे ब्रेन के वो काम में आते हैं, यानी इन मसल्स का कंट्रोल मेरे विल के अंडर है। इसका मतलब ये हुआ जो भी मूवमेंट आपकी टंग करेगी वो सारे मूवमेंट्स आपके डायरेक्ट विल के अंडर होंगे, आपके कंट्रोल के अंडर होंगे। तो आप याद रखोगे, आवर टंग consists of skeletal muscles and it is protrusible, यानी हम अपनी टांग को बाहर भी निकाल सकते हैं और उसको अंदर वापस अपनी पोजीशन पे में भी रिगेन कर सकते हैं, isn't it? And this tongue is free from the frontal side, जो इसका आगे वाला हिस्सा है वो फ्री है, isn't it? And जो इसका बैकवर्ड हिस्सा है वो एसोसिएटेड है, वो अटैच्ड है, ठीक है? और जो हमारी टंग है उसका जो बैकवर्ड हिस्सा है एंड देयर इज प्रेजेंस ऑफ ए टर्मिनल्स लाइक ऑफ द स्ट्रक्चर, इसका एक ऐसा टेढ़ा स्ट्रक्चर बैक साइड से होता है जिसको हम कहते हैं सल्कस टर्मिनलिस। दैट स्ट्रक्चर इज कॉल्ड एज सल्कस टर्मिनलिस। याद रखो आप, सल्कस टर्मिनलिस के बीच में जो हमारी टंग का पिछला हिस्सा है उसके सेंट्रल रीजन पे एक परफोरेशन सी होती है, एक सुराख सा होता है, विच इज नोन एज foramen cecum, which is known as foramen cecum, isn't it? This foramen cecum, its back side represents the beginning of our thyroid gland। तो हमारी जो टंग है इसका जो आगे वाला हिस्सा है वो फ्री है और इसका जो पिछला वाला हिस्सा वो एसोसिएटेड रहता है, वो अटैच रहता है। वो एक स्पेसिफिक मस्क्यूलर शीथ से अटैच रहता है। उस स्पेसिफिक मस्क्यूलर शीथ को कहते हैं लिंगुअल फ्रेन्यूलम। एंड हियर यू विल नोट दैट tongue is associated and attached with the help of lingual frenulum। एंड इसका ये जो टीड़ा बैकवर्ड साइड से एक सिकल शेप्ड जो स्ट्रक्चर इसका है, दैट स्ट्रक्चर इज कॉल्ड sulcus terminalis, and the central region of that has a perforation known as foramen cecum that marks the beginning of our thyroid gland. Besides that, our tongue also consists of at its backward and the dorsal region specific tonsils which are known as lingual tonsils। जो हमारी टंग के पीछे टॉन्सिल्स रहते हैं, such tonsils are called as lingual, these tonsils are called as lingual tonsils। Besides that, our tongue also consists of some outward projectional like structures which are known as papillae। हमारी जो टांग होती है इसके बाहर से कुछ प्रोजेक्शन सी होती है which are known as papillae। देखो यहाँ पे कुछ पैपिले होते हैं और यहाँ पे साइड में कुछ पैपिले होते हैं और सेंट्रल एंड टर्मिनल रीजन पर भी कुछ पैपिले मौजूद होते हैं। और जो स्टार्ट में पैपिले होते हैं उनको कहते हैं हम वेलेट पैपिले। हमारी टांग जो होती है उसके बैक, डॉर्सल एंड फ्रंटल रीजन पे जो पैपिले होते हैं दे आर कॉल्ड एज वेलेट पैपिले। दीज आर द आउटवर्ड प्रोजेक्शन लाइक स्ट्रक्चर्स। और इनका काम होता है ये यहाँ पे अपने अंदर टेस्ट बड्स को रखते हैं, इनके ऊपर टेस्ट बड्स होते हैं। और ये जो वेलेट पैपिले होते हैं इनका नंबर 8 से 10 तक होता है। वी हैव 8 to 10 velate papillae। Then after that we have another type of the papillae which are smaller in comparison to the velate papillae, and such papillae are referred as fungiform papillae। उनको कहते हैं fungiform papillae। Besides that, we have third type of the papillae which are very small and externally they are keratinized and their number is very numerous in comparison to the fungiform papillae or velate papillae, and such types of the papillae of our tongue are collectively called as filiform papillae। Filiform papillae। So main three types of the papillae which are present on your tongue are velate papillae which are 8 to 10 in the number, then fungiform papillae which are comparatively of smaller size in comparison to the velate papillae, then there are filiform papillae which are very numerous and distributed across the dorsal side of our tongue। And besides that, there can be presence of some another types of the projections which are located on the right and the left side of our tongue, almost 5 in number from each side। And these papillated structures which are 5 in number from each side of the backward side of our left and right side of our tongue, these papillae are called as folate papillae। These are called as folate papillae। Their appearance is as if the sepals of a flower, that is why they are called as folate papillae। So collectively 4 types of papillae are present over the surface of the tongue। Number 1 is velate papillae, and number 2 is fungiform papillae, number 3 is filiform papillae, and number 4 is what? Number 4 is folate papillae। And the main function of the papillae is to harbor the presence of the taste buds which are meant for the perception of the different types of the tastes। Then when we will be discussing the physiology of our digestive system, then we will be discussing the role played by our tongue for digestion। And so far as the movements of the tongue are concerned, इसके movements के होने से हमारी एक particular language develop होती है, हम speech को दे पाते हैं, ठीक है। और ये जो टांग होती है वहां पे डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ जो टेस्ट बड्स होते हैं उनकी वजह से हम डिफरेंट टेस्ट्स को परसीव कर सकते हैं, जो हम आने वाले लेक्चर्स में जानेंगे। जैसे हम स्वीट टेस्ट को परसीव कर सकते हैं, जैसे हम स्वर टेस्ट को परसीव कर सकते हैं, हमामी टेस्ट को परसीव कर सकते हैं, बिटर टेस्ट को परसीव कर सकते हैं। जो बैकवर्ड साइड ऑफ द टांग होता है, पिछला वाला साइड होता है, वो बिटर टेस्ट को ज्यादा परसीव करता है। जो पेरिफेरल साइड्स में जो टांग की लोकेशन होती है साइड से, वो स्वर टेस्ट को परसीव कर लेता है। जो इसका एंटीरियर मोस्ट रीजन होता है, आगे वाला एपेक्स वाला रीजन होता है, तो उस एपेक्स वाले रीजन से हम ज्यादातर स्वीट टेस्ट को परसीव कर लेते हैं। बाकी जो रीजन इस टांग का बच जाता है वहां से हम साल्ट टेस्ट को परसीव कर सकते हैं। देयर इज अनदर टेस्ट नोन एज द हमामी टेस्ट। हमामी इज अ जापानीज वर्ड, तो हम उसे इंग्लिश में एक डिलिशियस टेस्ट कह सकते हैं, अबाउट विच वी विल बी डिस्कसिंग इन आवर कमिंग लेक्चर्स। बट now this time we came to know that we have a muscular tongue and there are skeletal muscles, and it is associated with our throat with the help of a frenulum known as lingual frenulum, and our tongue consists of, from the back sides, the lingual tonsils, and it consists of different types of the papillae like Folate Papillae is there, fungiform papillae is there, Folate Papillae is there, and Filiform Papillae are there. And then we will be discussing the next part of our buccal cavity, that is the palate. You know, this is from the external side, this is the maxilla and this is the mandible, isn't it? But internally, if we will be having a look over the buccal cavity of the human beings, अगर हम अपनी मुंह को खोलेंगे, फिर मिरर को आगे रखेंगे, उसके बाद मिरर को आगे रखने के बाद हम अब अगर अपने मुंह के ऊपर वाले साइड को देखेंगे, so far as the roof of our buccal cavity is concerned, we will find a hard structure which is known as palate. ठीक है, जो ऊपर वाला स्ट्रक्चर होता है। इफ यू विल बी आस्किंग मी, सर हमें कैसे ये पता चलेगा कि हमारा पलेट कहाँ पे होता है? एंड आई विल जस्ट से यू, आप अपनी टंग के एपेक्स का जो टिप है उस टिप को अपने मुंह के अंदर, अपने मुंह के ऊपरी वाले छत से मिलाइए। ठीक है, you will put your tongue towards the top of your oral or the buccal cavity and you will find the palate. ठीक है, और जो नेक्स्ट स्ट्रक्चर buccal cavity का है वो क्या है? वो यही palate होता है, isn't it? palate के दो हिस्से होते हैं, एक आगे वाला हिस्सा और एक पीछे वाला हिस्सा। जिस palate के बारे में आप जानते हो, यानी जिसको आप परसीव कर सकते हो by making use of your tip of the apex of your tongue, तो उस palate को हार्ड पार्ट ऑफ द प्लेट और हार्ड प्लेट कहते हैं, और उसके पीछे जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट है आपके प्लेट का, तो उसको क्या कहते हैं? उसको सॉफ्ट प्लेट कहते हैं, isn't it? Henceforth the next part of our buccal cavity is the anterior most region, isn't it? This anterior most region is known as palate, isn't it? It is called palate, and this palate has been divided into two parts. One is anterior and another one is located at its backward side, and the frontal very most region of the palate is known as hard palate, and the backward palate is known as soft palate. Soft palate. Here you have to remember one more thing, that your hard palate consists of striations. The hard palate of your buccal cavity has some striations in order to have a good grasp over your food item during the course of the chewing or mastication, and such these striations are collectively called as palatine rugae. They are called as palatine rugae. यहाँ पे आपको ये याद रखना है, दे आर कॉल्ड एज पैलेटाइन रुगे। मैंने आपको कहा जो आपकी बकल कैविटी का रूफ है, उसका छत है, ठीक है, उसे पैलेट कहते हैं, और उसे दो हिस्सों में हमने डिवाइड किया है, एक तो आगे वाला हिस्सा, ठीक है, तो दूसरा पिछला वाला हिस्सा। तो आगे वाले हिस्से को हम हार्ड पैलेट कहते हैं, पिछला वाला हिस्सा सॉफ्ट पैलेट कहते हैं। और इस हार्ड पैलेट में कुछ स्ट्रिएशंस होते हैं, isn't it? Some zigzag like undulational structures are present, which are collectively called as palatine rugae. If you will be asked in which part of your palate you have rugae, then the answer should be it is the hard part of our palate, frontal part of our palate, which has palatine rugae. And then there is soft part of the palate. This is the soft part of the palate. अगर आप अपने आगे मिरर रखते हो और अपने मुंह को खोलोगे, उसको खोलने के बाद जो आपको सॉफ्ट प्लेट दिखता है, उस सॉफ्ट प्लेट का जो सेंट्रल हिस्सा होता है, सेंट्रल रीजन होता है, वहां से आपको एक डिप्रेशनल एलिवेशन से दिखने को मिलती है. ये this is the hard plate and this is the soft plate, and you know this soft plate has an outgrowth like structure which is called as vulla. This is called as vulla. This is called as vulla. This is U, and here it is V-U-L-A. This is called a vulla. So far as your palate is concerned, anterior part is hard, और उसके जो backward side है that is soft. The hard palate consists of palatine rugae and the soft palate consists of vulla. Actually, when you are salivating something, जब आप किसी चीज को, अपने फूड आइटम को, बोलस को निगल लेते हो, तो ये उल्ला क्या करता है, from right and the left side of the vulla there are the openings of the nasal passages. Then it results in the closure of the nasal passages in order to avoid any sort of mechanical confusion during the course of the salivation when we are taking food, isn't it? ये इसकी main function है. And उसके बाद our oral cavity or the buccal cavity consists of special hard structures which are known as teeth. You know, teeth are specialized hard structures present or lying within our gums of the oral cavity, which are meant for mechanical breakdown of the food, isn't it? They are meant for what? Mechanical breakdown of the food. And you know the teeth of the human beings are diffeodont. जो हमारे दांत होते हैं वो दो कैटेगरीज में उनको हम डिवाइड कर सकते हैं, बिकॉज सम ऑफ आवर टीथ आर कॉल्ड एज मिल्क टीथ एंड अदर सेट ऑफ टीथ ऑफ we people are called as permanent teeth. Permanent teeth. हमारे अंदर दो तरह की डेंटेशन है, डाइफ्योडेंटेशन. एक तो हमारे अंदर मिल्क टीथ होते हैं और दूसरी तरह के जो टीथ होते हैं उनको परमानेंट टीथ कहते हैं. तो मिल्क टीथ वो टीथ होते हैं व्हेन वी वेर ऑन लैक्टेशन ड्यूरिंग आवर इन्फेंटाइल स्टेज. उस टाइम में जब हमारी एज तकरीबन 6 मंथ की कंप्लीट हो चुकी थी, तो उस टाइम में बहुत सारे जो हमारे दांत हैं उनकी ग्रोथ का होना स्टार्ट हुआ था. फिर ऑलमोस्ट द कंप्लीशन ऑफ 2.5 ईयर उनकी कंप्लीट डेवलपमेंट हुई थी. एंड देन वी शेड सच टीथ ऑफ आवर बकल कैविटी. फिर वो टीथ निकल गए, वो दांत निकल गए. उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट सेट ऑफ टीथ उनके बदले में जो रिकवर हुए, दे आर कॉल्ड द परमानेंट टीथ एंड दे आर प्रेजेंट थ्रू आउट आवर लाइफ. सो द टीथ which we get during our lactational time, they are called as milk teeth, and the teeth which we get permanently after they are shed, and they are called as permanent teeth. And we have a dental formula, and by making use of our dental formula we can easily check out how many teeth are present and which types of teeth we have. So far as milk teeth are concerned, for them we have a specific dental formula known as 2-1-2. You will remember it, divide by 2-1-2. आपको याद रखना है 212 डिवाइड बाय 212, ठीक. और जो हमारे परमानेंट टीथ है उनके लिए डेंटल फॉर्मूला है 2-1-2-3 डिवाइड बाय 2-1-2-3. Have a look over this diagram. Here these are the teeth, isn't it? First of all, let us have a look over the milk teeth. So far as our milk teeth are concerned, there are three types. And first type of the teeth which are present in our buccal cavity, this is the first set of teeth. These are called incisors and these are called premolars, isn't it? And these are called molars. Our milk teeth are of three types: incisors, premolars and molars, and then you have to multiply them with 2. So it will constitute 10 in number from the upper side, which will be associated towards the maxillary region, and 10 in number of the teeth, they will be associated with the mandibular region of our buccal cavity. तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ, अगर हम मिल्क टीथ की बात करते हैं तो हमारे पास ऊपर वाले साइड में 10 टीथ होते हैं और निचले वाले साइड में 10 टीथ होते हैं। तो जिनमें ऊपर वाले साइड में एक साइड से एक साइड से इंसिजर्स होते हैं, दूसरी साइड से 2 इंसिजर्स होते हैं, एक साइड से 1 प्रेमोलर होता है, दूसरी साइड से 1 प्रेमोलर होता है, एक साइड से 2 मोलर्स होते हैं, दूसरी साइड से 2 मोलर्स होते हैं। सो फार एज द लोअर साइड ऑफ द टीथ आर कंसर्न्ड, तो एक साइड से 2 दीज इंसिजर्स होते हैं, फिर एक साइड से 1 प्रेमोलर होता है और फिर एक साइड से 2 मोलर्स होते हैं। इस तरह हमारी मिल्क टीथ का जो काउंट है उसका जो टोटल नंबर है दैट इज 20। और ये सारे के सारे जो दांत होते हैं हमने इनको शेड करना होता है, हमने उनको, ये नेचुरली निकल जाते हैं, फिर ये रिप्लेस हो जाते हैं विद द परमानेंट टीथ। And so far as the dental formula of permanent teeth is concerned, and the dental formula of the permanent teeth is 2, 1, 2, 3. Have a look here, please. यहाँ पे आप गौर से देखेंगे, यहाँ पे ये इंसिजर्स हैं, फर्स्ट सेट ऑफ द टीथ जो आपके आगे होते हैं, यहाँ पे इनको इंसिजर्स कहते हैं। उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट फॉर्मेट ऑफ द टीथ होता है, दे आर कॉल्ड एज कैनाइन्स, जो मिल्क टीथ थे ही नहीं, and then there is another set of the teeth known as premolars, then there is the third or the fourth set of the teeth which are collectively called as molars. So our teeth have been divided into 4 types. The first type of the teeth which is present from our frontal side of the buccal cavity, they are called as incisors, then there are canines, then there are premolars, then there are molars. To remember the total number of the teeth with respect to their typification, we have to remember this 2, 1, 2, 3 divided by 2, 1, 2, 3. Now, how we will come to know where their location is? If this is the oral or the buccal cavity and these are our total number of the teeth. And the first set of the teeth is the incisors. So, these are the 2 incisors from one side and 2 incisors similarly from the another side, isn't it? And then there is a canine, then there are 2 premolars, then there are 3 molars. Please have a look here. यहाँ पे गौर से आप देखेंगे, देखो बेटा, पहले यहाँ पे हमारे आगे से 2 इंसिजर्स होते हैं, ठीक है, फिर उसके बाद एक कैनाइन होता है, फिर इसके बाद 2 प्रेमोलर्स होते हैं, फिर उसके बाद 3 मोलर्स होते हैं। फिर से आप ध्यान से देखोगे, दिस इज these are 2 incisors, 1 canine, isn't it? 2 premolars and 3 molars. Same is the case with the other side, ठीक है? And this is 2 incisors, 1 canine, then 2 premolars, then 3 molars. Same is the case from this side and from this side. When you are visiting your dentist, कभी कभार अगर उसको दिखता है कि आपकी ओरल कैविटी में इस वाले टीथ में प्रॉब्लम है, उस वाले टीथ में प्रॉब्लम है, यहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम है, वहाँ पे प्रॉब्लम है, तो वो आपके वो यहाँ पे ऐसे रिप्रेजेंट करता है। से दिस रिप्रेजेंट्स द ओरल और द बकल कैविटी। अगर उसने यहाँ पे लिखा 4 और फिर उसने आपको लिखा इट हैज टू बी एक्सट्रैक्टेड, 4 टू बी एक्सट्रैक्टेड, इसका मतलब है उसने हाइपोथेटिकली आपकी ओरल कैविटी को ऐसे 2 हिस्सों में डिवाइड किया, इजंट इट? और आपकी ओरल कैविटी का अपर राइट साइड जो है वहां का जो 4th टूथ है, उसका मतलब है वहां का 4th टूथ कौन सा है? दीज वेर द फर्स्ट 2 these incisors, then it was the canine, then it was the first premolar. तो इसका मतलब ये है कि आपके फर्स्ट प्रोमोलर में इतनी ज़्यादा प्रॉब्लम है, इट नीड्स टू बी द एक्सट्रैक्शन। तो इस तरह से कभी कभार अगर उसने इस वाले कॉर्नर में लिखा तो आपने ये समझ लेना चाहिए कि ये इस वाले साइड के दांत में कोई प्रॉब्लम है। यहाँ पे लिखा तो इसका मतलब है इस वाले साइड के दांत में कोई प्रॉब्लम है। And when we will be having a thorough look over our teeth, then we will see that our teeth consists of external white structure known as crown. Every tooth of human being consists of one part that is known as crown, another part that is known as neck, and another part that is known as root. अगर हम एक दांत को बाहर निकालेंगे तो हम देखेंगे इसमें जो डिफरेंट रीजन्स होते हैं। एक तो इसके बाहर वाला रीजन, ठीक है, जहां से उसका इनेमल होता है, उस बाहर वाले रीजन को हम कहते हैं क्राउन। फिर उसका दूसरा हिस्सा होता है जिसको हम कहते हैं नेक, isn't it, which is located or which is associated with our gums. उसके बाद उसका जो लास्ट वाला पार्ट होता है that is root. Here you have to remember जो lower molars होते हैं, यहाँ पे आपको एक बात ध्यान से सुननी पड़ेगी और उसको याद रखना पड़ेगा। जो lower molars होते हैं ये, these are the lower three molars. These are lower three molars. Exceptionally, they have 3 R's or 3 roots. ठीक है, sorry, they have 2 roots. Exceptionally, they consist of 2 roots. आपने इस एक बात को याद रखना है, ध्यान से इसको सुनना है कि जो हमारे लोअर जा के अंदर जो मोलर्स होते हैं, दे हैव 2 रूट्स, while as the upper molars are consisting of a single root. और आपने देखा जो हमारा दांत होता है उसके 3 हिस्से होते हैं, one is crown, another is neck, and the third very most important region is root. So far as the functionality of the teeth are concerned, we have to maintain a good oral hygiene. अपना गुड ओरल हाइजीन मेंटेन रखने के लिए वी शुड ब्रश मोर देन 1 टाइम डेली. वी शुड ब्रश इन द मॉर्निंग, वी शुड ब्रश बिफोर गोइंग टू आवर बेड, एंड आफ्टर completion of our foraging or after completion of our meals we should go for the flasking. We should clean our oral or the buccal cavity including our teeth. If we will not be in a position to keep good hygiene of our oral cavity, then different food items will be localized within the margins in between of our dentitions or the dentines. Then the bacterial decaying of that food matter will ultimately result in overgrowth of the bacteria. Then the degradation of the enamel of the tooth or the crown of the tooth will take place, and internal side of our tooth consists of a pulp cavity. Then towards the lower side of the pulp cavity there is presence of the nerve endings. जब nerve endings तक हमारे टूथ का डिके होता है, फिर बहुत ज़्यादा वहाँ पे दर्द होता है और उसे एक्सट्रैक्ट करना पड़ता है. यू विल थिंक फॉर अ व्हाइल इफ वी विल बी एक्सट्रैक्टिंग आवर टीथ, देन वी विल नॉट बी इन ए पोजीशन टू हैव अ मैकेनिकल ब्रेकडाउन ऑफ आवर फूड आइटम्स. तो दांतों के बारे में आपने ये जाना. जो हमारे दांत है, एक तो वो मिल्क टीथ होते हैं और दूसरा जो सेट है वो परमानेंट फॉर्मेट में प्रेजेंट होता है. दैट इज व्हाई वी हैव डायफ्यूर डेंटेशन. एंड हमारे जो गम्स होते हैं, अपर साइड में भी दांत होते हैं और लोअर साइड में भी दांत होते हैं. और हमने जाना जो हमारे दांत होते हैं दे कैन बी डिवाइडेड इनटू 2 टाइप्स, मिल्क टीथ एंड परमानेंट टीथ. मिल्क टीथ के लिए हमने फार्मूला दी 212 डिवाइड बाई 212, एंड परमानेंट टीथ के लिए फार्मूला क्या है 2123 डिवाइड बाई 2123. एंड यू हैव टू राइट डाउन हियर 2123 डिवाइड बाई 2123, एंड यू विल मल्टीप्लाई देम with 2 and you will get the total number of the teeth. Here is 2 1 2 3. It means 2 plus 1 plus 2 plus 3. It means here it is 8 divided by 8, and 8 will be multiplied with 2 and you will get 16, and here you will get 16. So the upper region of your buccal cavity or the gums will be consisting of 16 teeth and lower region will be consisting of 16 teeth, and the total number of teeth will come up as 32. But here you have to remember one more thing, that the last set ऑफ यूर मोलर्स, जो आपके मोलर्स होते हैं, हमने यहाँ पे लिखा एक साइड से 3 होते हैं, दूसरी साइड से 3 होते हैं, एक साइड से 3 होते हैं, दूसरी साइड से 3 होते हैं, लेकिन जो यहाँ पे लास्ट वाला सेट होता है this one and this one, these will constitute the fourth and the last formats or the pairs of the molars. एंड फॉर योर काइंड इंफॉर्मेशन, जो ये लास्ट में मोलर्स मौजूद होते हैं, ये इनको हम विजडम टीथ कहते हैं, बिकॉज दे आर वेस्टिजिया, एंड सबसे लास्ट में यही दांत जो है वो आ जाते हैं, सो फार एज द डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द टीथ आर कंसर्न. नाउ since we have different formats of the dentition, different forms of the teeth, the frontal ones are called as incisors, then the next ones are called as canines, then the next ones are called as premolars, and the next ones are called as molars. अब देखो बेटा, जो incisors होते हैं, आपको यहां से ध्यान से देखना है. The incisors are meant for biting, isn't it? Incisors are meant for biting. जब आप एप्पल को बाइट करते हो, यू आर मेकिंग यूज ऑफ इंसिजर्स. देन सेकंड फॉर्मेट ऑफ द टीथ इज नोन एज कैनाइन और कैनाइन्स. दे आर मेंट फॉर टेयरिंग. अगर आपने किसी चीज को टेयर करना होता है, कट करना होता है, देन यू आर मेकिंग यूज ऑफ कैनाइन्स. एंड द थर्ड फॉर्मेट ऑफ द टीथ, दैट इज प्रीमोलर्स, दे आर मेंट फॉर चिविंग. एंड द फोर्थ फॉर्मेट ऑफ द टीथ, दे आर मेंट फॉर ग्राइंडिंग. चिविंग एंड ग्राइंडिंग, चिविंग एंड ग्राइंडिंग. CD यहाँ पे मैंने लिखा, CD यहाँ पे मैंने लिखा. इसका मतलब ये है, these formats of the teeth are meant for the frontal formats of the teeth are meant for the biting. then जो आपके canines होते हैं, they are meant for tearing. then उसके बाद जो आपके premolars and molars होते हैं, they are meant for chewing and they are meant for grinding of the different structures which are present in your food. So when we will be discussing the physiology of our digestion, and वहाँ पे हम ये कहेंगे, the teeth of our mouth crash the food particles mechanically. जो मैकेनिकल ब्रेकडाउन होता है, उसमें हमारे जो दांत होते हैं उनका अहम रोल आ जाता है, so far as digestion of our food is concerned, isn't it? After that, if we will be having a look over the buccal cavity, the look other than that of our these structures: palate, teeth, gums, vestibule, lips, lingual frenulum, superior labial frenulum, inferior labial frenulum. We will find some associated structures. Like ये हमारी टंग थी, उसके बैक साइड में हमने देखा यहाँ पे कुछ स्पेसिफिक स्ट्रक्चर्स होते हैं जिनको कहते हैं lingual tonsils. Some other types of the tonsils are also present towards the back side of our oral cavity, which we will be discussing in the next part, that is pharynx. Now we will take the next structure of our digestive system, that is known as pharynx. तो बेटा ओरल या बकल कैविटी जो हमारी है, तो हमने देखा उस बकल कैविटी में जब हम फूड को लेते हैं, जो हम फिजियोलॉजी में डिस्कस करेंगे, फिजियोलॉजी ऑफ डाइजेशन में डिस्कस करेंगे, जब हम फूड को लेते हैं मैकेनिकली उसको हम ब्रेक करते हैं बाय मेकिंग यूज ऑफ आवर टीथ, isn't it? And we are mixing the food with what? With our saliva, by making use of our different muscles, especially the muscles which are present in our tongue. हम अपनी टंग को इस्तेमाल करते हैं मास्टिकेशन में. जब हम फूड को मास्टिकेशन के बाद उसको हम बोलस में कन्वर्ट कर लेते हैं, फिर इस बोलस को हम ट्रांसफर करते हैं टुवर्ड्स द नेक्स्ट रीजन ऑफ आवर डाइजेस्टिव ट्यूब, एंड दैट वेरी नेक्स्ट रीजन इज कॉल्ड एज pharynx. तो pharynx क्या है? Pharynx second part, this will constitute this very part, you know now, it constituted the buccal cavity. उसके बाद जो next part है, this very region, it will constitute the pharynx. और जो हमारा pharynx होता है, it is tube like structure. It is tube-like structure with a length of almost 12 centimeters. लगभग ये इसकी जो लेंथ होती है वो 12 सेंटीमीटर्स की होती है, ठीक है। एंड ये जो हमारा लैरिंगस होता है, हम इसको 3 हिस्सों में डिवाइड कर सकते हैं बेटा, isn't it? The first part of the larynx is called as nasopharynx. फर्स्ट पार्ट को क्या बोलते हैं? nasopharynx. और नेक्स्ट पार्ट जो इसका होता है दैट इज कॉल्ड एज ओरोफैरिंक्स। ओरोफैरिंक्स। और जो थर्ड एंड लास्ट मोस्ट पार्ट होता है हमारे फेरिंक्स का, उसको कहते हैं लैरेंजियो और लैरेंजियोफैरिंक्स। बेटा फेरिंक्स उस ट्यूब लाइक स्ट्रक्चर को कहते हैं जो हमारी डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम का वो वाला पार्ट होता है जो कनेक्ट करता है हमारे डाइजेस्टिव ट्यूब के 2 हिस्सों को, एक एसोफेगस को और दूसरा बकल कैविटी को। दैट स्मॉल 12 सेंटीमीटर लॉन्ग ट्यूब लाइक स्ट्रक्चर विच कनेक्ट्स आवर esophagus with our buccal cavity, that curved tube like structure is called as pharynx. And pharynx has been divided into 3 parts. Number 1 part is called as nasopharynx, next part is called as oropharynx, and the next part is called as laryngopharynx. तो बेटा जो पहला हिस्सा होता है दैट इज nasopharynx, ठीक है। हम कैसे जानेंगे कि नेजोफेरिक्स कहाँ पे होता है? बेटा देखो, जो हमारे नॉस्ट्रल्स होते हैं, देन नेजल पैसेज होती है, ये नेजल पैसेजेस जो 2 होती हैं ये ओपन हो जाती है इन द फेरिंक्स। और फेरिंक्स का वो पार्ट जिस पार्ट में हमारे इंटरनल नेजल ओपनिंग्स प्रेजेंट होते हैं। बाहर से if these are the nasal openings, isn't it? This is one nasal opening, another nasal opening, and these nasal openings will be continued with what? With the nasal passages, and these nasal passages will be embodied into our pharynx. तो इसका मतलब ये है this part of the pharynx in which there are 2 openings of our what? In which there are 2 openings of our nasal passages. This part is called as nasopharynx. तो इसके बाद इसका जो फ्रंटल एंड एंटीरियर मोस्ट रीजन है, जिस रीजन में हमारी बकल कैविटी डायरेक्टली कम्युनिकेट हो जाती है विद आवर फेरिंक्स। अब फेरिंक्स का वो वाला हिस्सा, ठीक है, जिस वाले हिस्से के साथ हमारा जो सॉफ्ट पैलेट था बकल कैविटी का, उस सॉफ्ट पैलेट के अंदर जो कैविटी कैनाल लाइक स्ट्रक्चर है, उस कैनाल लाइक स्ट्रक्चर की कम्युनिकेशन रहती है। तो वो नेक्स्ट पार्ट जो होता है, उस नेक्स्ट पार्ट को हम लोअर साइड में जो मौजूद होता है उसको कहते हैं ओरोफेरिंक्स। सो नेजल फेरिंक्स हैज कम्युनिकेशन विद द नेजल पैसेजेस एंड ओरोफेरिंक्स हैज कम्युनिकेशन विद द ओरल कैविटी और बकल कैविटी। एंड थर्ड मोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंट रीजन ऑफ आवर फेरिंक्स इज नोन एज लैरिंजियोफेरिंक्स। अब आप कैसे जानोगे कौन सा रीजन लैरिंजियोफेरिंक्स है? फेरिंक्स का वो वाला हिस्सा जो कम्युनिकेटेड रहता है विद द लैरिंक्स। उसके बाद हम यहाँ पे देखेंगे, जब हम रेस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम पढ़ेंगे, विंड पाइप के बारे में जानेंगे, ठीक है। तो जिस फेरिंक्स के हिस्से के साथ आपका लैरिंक्स एसोसिएट रहता है, उसकी ओपनिंग वहां पे आ जाती है, उस हिस्से को हम लैरिंजियोफेरिंक्स कहते हैं। सो वी हैव डिवाइडेड द फेरिंक्स इनटू 3 पार्ट्स। नंबर फर्स्ट पार्ट इज नेजोफेरिंक्स इन विच देयर आर ओपनिंग्स ऑफ व्हाट? नेजल पैसेजेस। यहाँ पे अपनी याद दहानी के लिए आप यहाँ पे लिखोगे कि here it has openings of nasal passages, isn't it? And here you have the communication with oral cavity or buccal cavity, communication with oral cavity। और बेटा जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट है आपके फेरेंक्स का, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज लैरिंगोफेरेंक्स। हियर यू हैव द opening for larynx। ये तीन हिस्से हैं आपके फेरेंक्स के। नाउ जो आपका फेरेंक्स होता है और आपके फेरेंक्स का जो नेजल वाला यानी नेजोफेरेंक्स पार्ट होता है, यहाँ पे स्पेसिफाइड टॉन्सिल्स होते हैं जिनको फेरेंजियल टॉन्सिल्स हम कहते हैं। इट कंसिस्ट्स ऑफ, दिस वेरी रीजन कंसिस्ट्स ऑफ pharyngeal tonsils। It consists of pharyngeal tonsils, and these pharyngeal tonsils, और एक बात को याद रखोगे, they are called as adenoids। These pharyngeal tonsils are called as adenoids। देखो बेटा, जो आपका नेजोफेरिंक्स है, इस नेजोफेरिंक्स में स्पेसिफिक टॉन्सिल्स होते हैं, उनको फेरेंजियल टॉन्सिल्स कहते हैं, या इन फेरेंजियल टॉन्सिल्स को हम एडिनोइड्स भी कहते हैं। उसके बाद जो बेटा आपका ओरोफेरिंक्स होता है, यहां पर भी टॉन्सिल्स होते हैं और जिनको हम कहते हैं पैलेटाइन टॉन्सिल्स। हियर यू हैव अनदर फॉर्मेट ऑफ द टॉन्सिल्स which are called as Palatine Tonsils। So there are three forms of the tonsils. One form is Palatine tonsil, which are present in the oropharynx region of your pharynx. Another is adenoids or pharyngeal tonsils, which are present in your nasopharynx. And the third format of these tonsils are present over the back side of your tongue, which are called as lingual tonsils। जो टॉन्सिल यहाँ पे होते हैं आपके टंग के बैक साइड में, उनको हम lingual tonsils कहते हैं। So what is the role of the pharynx? Pharynx acts as a communicating canal for our respiratory system, for the process of the respiration or the breathing, and our digestive system। because ये जो pharynx होता है, when you will complete the mastication of your food, then you will put that transformed form of the food, which is known as bolus, you have to inculcate that into the esophagus or food pipe, but it will be passed to the esophagus through this canal known as pharynx। So pharynx has an important role of making a communication or connectivity between your esophagus and buccal cavity, and it has another important function, that is it will be as a communicating passage between your nasal passages and your larynx। जो हम एयर ब्रीद करते हैं, वो अगर हम अपने नॉस्ट्रिल्स का इस्तेमाल करके उसकी इनस्पायरेशन करते हैं, चाहे हम मुंह से इनस्पायरेशन करें या हम अपनी नाक से इनस्पायरेशन करें, इस इनस्पायर्ड एयर को हमने ट्रांसफर करना होता है टुवर्ड्स आवर विंड पाइप वया लैरिंक्स। ठीक है, तो इसके लिए भी जो कम्युनिकेटिंग पैसेज है वो फेरिंक्स है। दो इंपॉर्टेंट फंक्शंस। हाँ, जो आपका यहाँ पे लैरिंक्स होता है, इस लैरिंक्स की ओपनिंग को हम क्या कहते हैं? ग्लॉटिस। द ओपनिंग ऑफ लैरिंक्स इज कॉल्ड एज ग्लॉटिस। ठीक है, अब देखो बेटा, जब आपने अपने फूड को सेलिब्रेट करना होता है तो उस टाइम में ये चांसेस रहते हैं योर फूड आइटम कैन गेट इजी एंट्री इनटू द ग्लॉटिस एंड चॉकिंग कैन टेक प्लेस, बट Almighty Allah has protected us from getting such choking, because there is presence of a lid-like structure over the glottis, and that lid-like structure is called as epiglottis. That lid-like structure is called as Glottis. This is the next structure. So the opening of the larynx is called as glottis, and it has a lid-like structure which is known as epiglottis. It is because of the epiglottis that during the course of our salivation, when we inculcate food or the bolus into our esophagus, that no chances for any food item remains there to get their entry into the larynx. And then there comes the next part of our digestive tube, that is known as esophagus. Esophagus is also known as our food pipe. Why it is known as food pipe? Because it acts as that type of a pipe with the help of which we will transfer the food into our main part of the digestive system, that is our stomach. ठीक है बेटा, तो इसलिए इसको हम फूड पाइप कहते हैं, isn't it? और बेटा जो फूड पाइप हमारी होती है, इसकी जो इंटरनल में जो लाइनिंग होती है, अगर हम उसकी हिस्टोलॉजी को देखते हैं, हालांकि हमने हिस्टोलॉजी ऑफ डाइजेस्टिव सिस्टम को एक सेपरेट दिस लेक्चर में डिस्कस करना है, लेकिन यहाँ पे आप एक बात को याद रखोगे, द लाइनिंग और द म्यूकस लाइनिंग ऑफ आवर ईसोफेगस कंसिस्ट्स ऑफ स्ट्रेटिफाइड स्क्वैमस एपिथेलियल टिश्यू. इट कंसिस्ट्स ऑफ stratified squamous epithelial tissue. Stratified squamous epithelial tissue constitutes the lining of the mucous membrane of what? Of our esophagus. And what this esophagus does? इसका काम क्या है? अब ये भी एक कम्युनिकेटर पाइप एक्ट कर लेती है, क्योंकि इट कम्युनिकेट्स टू पार्ट्स. One part is your stomach, another part is your pharynx. जब आपने अपने फूड को pharynx में धकेल दिया, फिर इसके बाद इस फूड को कहाँ पे जाना होता है? Into the stomach. And to incorporate that food items into your stomach, you have to incorporate that food item through this pipe known as esophagus. बड़ा ये जो esophagus होता है, इसमें मसल्स यूजुअली जो होते हैं वो 3 तरह के मसल फाइबर्स होते हैं. इसमें उसके ऊपर वाले रीजन में जो मसल्स होते हैं, ठीक है, वो ज्यादातर स्केलेटल मसल्स होते हैं, isn't it? और इसका जो मिडल वाला रीजन है, उसमें ज्यादातर मिक्स्ड जो है मसल फाइबर्स होते हैं, कुछ स्केलेटल होते हैं, कुछ नॉन स्केलेटल होते हैं. और इसका जो लोअर मोस्ट पार्ट होता है, ठीक है, उस लोअर मोस्ट पार्ट में इसके अंदर जो मसल्स होते हैं वो स्ट्रिक्टली एंड कंप्लीटली नॉन स्केलेटल और या अनस्ट्रिप्ड मसल्स होते हैं. बेटा आप ये याद रखोगे, जो आपका इसोफेगस है, इसोफेगस में अब कुछ स्पेसिफिक मूवमेंट्स होंगे जिनको हम पेरिस्टाल्टिक मूवमेंट्स कहते हैं. और जैसे ही पेरिस्टाल्टिक मूवमेंट्स होंगे तो ये फूड आइटम जो भी इसोफेगस तक आया, इसको धक्का दिया जाता है, ठीक है, इसको पुश आउट किया जाता है कि वो फूड आइटम आपके स्टमक तक पहुंचे. तो उस फूड आइटम को यहाँ तक पहुँचाने के लिए आपकी फूड पाइप स्पेसिफिक मूवमेंट्स करती है, और उन स्पेसिफिक मूवमेंट्स को हम पेरिस्टाल्टिक मूवमेंट्स कहते हैं. तो बेटा पेरिस्टाल्टिक मूवमेंट्स या द मूवमेंट्स विच आर बीइंग एग्जिबिटेड बाय द मसल्स ऑफ द एसोफेगस, वो जो मसल्स होते हैं वो 3 तरह के होते हैं. जो फर्स्ट पार्ट आपके एसोफेगस का होता है, उसमें ज्यादातर आपके स्केलेटल स्ट्रिप्ड मसल्स होते हैं. इसका मतलब है अगर आपके एसोफेगस के फर्स्ट पार्ट में फूड आइटम आया और आपने चाहा आप उसको रिगर्जिटेट करो, बाहर निकालो, इट कैन बी अप टू यू दैट यू कैन रिगर्जिटेट दैट फूड विच वाज जस्ट present in your first part of your pharynx, this esophagus, क्योंकि यहाँ पे स्केलेटल मसल ज्यादा होते हैं. उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट मोस्ट रीजन होता है, यहाँ पे मिक्सड ये जो है मसल्स होते हैं. यहाँ पे स्ट्रेटेड भी अनस्ट्रेटेड मसल्स भी होते हैं. अगर यहाँ तक कोई फूड आइटम आया और आपने चाहे इसको बाहर निकालना, यूजुअली आप उसको बाहर नहीं निकाल सकते हो, क्योंकि यहाँ पे फिर पेरिस्टाल्टिक वेव चलती है. उस पेरिस्टाल्टिक वेव के होने से जल्दी फूड को पहुंचाया जाता है इनटू योर स्टमक. एंड देन there are 3 types of the muscles which are called as non-striated muscles, which are strictly present or forming the wall of your lastmost part of food pipe or the esophagus. If we will be having a look over the dimension of our esophagus, it is almost 25 centimeters long, isn't it? और यहाँ पे और एक बात हमने यहाँ पे देखनी है कि ये जो फूड पाइप होती है, इट कम्युनिकेट्स द 2 कैविटीज. एक ऊपर से जो हमारी थोरेसिक कैविटी होती है, ठीक है, ये हमारे थोरेक्स को हमारी एब्डोमेन के साथ मिलाती है. आवर फूड पाइप communicates these two cavities, thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity. And you know, in between the thoracic cavity and abdominal cavity there is presence of diaphragm. तो इसका मतलब ये हुआ, ये जो हमारी फूड पाइप होती है, it passes through the diaphragm. Say, I will here make a line and let me write here, this very line is your diaphragm. It is your diaphragm. तो इस डायफ्राम से ये होके जाती है. Once it passes through the diaphragm, जैसे ये डायफ्राम से होके जाती है तो इसमें एक कर्वेचर सा आ जाता है, एक बेंड सा आ जाता है. यहाँ पे देयर इज प्रेजेंस ऑफ ए बेंड लाइक स्ट्रक्चर आफ्टर इट पासेस ओवर आवर डायफ्राम. ये जो बेंड होता है ये इसलिए होता है क्योंकि अगर हमने कभी कभार अपने हेड को नीचे की ओर झुकाया और हमने हाल ही में फूड को खा लिया था तो इससे चांसेस कम हो जाते हैं कि हमारा फूड स्टमक से रिगर्जिटेट हो जाए, वापस आ जाए. द स्पेसिफिक स्लाइटेस्ट कर्वेचर or the bend of the food pipe actually protects us from getting our food regurgitated from the stomach. ठीक? And then there is next part and the most important part of our digestive system, that is your stomach. You know, stomach is primarily meant for temporary storage of food and also it is meant for churning of food. What physiological role it is playing in the process of the digestion, that we will be discussing in our coming lectures. फिलहाल हमने इसकी एनाटॉमी को जानना है. तो बेटा जो आपके डाइजेस्टिव ट्रैक्ट में स्टमक होता है, ठीक है, इसका प्राइमरी काम होता है फूड को चार्न करना और फूड को टेम्पोररी स्टोर करना. ये कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स को, प्रोटीन रिच फूड को, लिपिड रिच फूड को एज पर द टाइम स्पेसिफिकेशन स्टोर कर लेता है टेम्पोररली बेसिस पे. हाँ, अब जो आपका स्टमक है, इस स्टमक में डिफरेंट रीजन्स होते हैं, इजंट इट? एक रीजन जो स्टमक का होता है वो यहाँ पे होता है. दिस इज द अपर मोस्ट रीजन ऑफ योर स्टमक. और जो बेटा इसका दूसरा रीजन होता है, दैट इज दिस वेरी रीजन, दिस रीजन ऑफ योर स्टमक. और जो नेक्स्ट बड़ा रीजन होता है, दैट इज दिस वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट रीजन ऑफ द स्टमक एंड दिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूट्स इट इज लास्ट पार्ट. सो हम स्टमक को इन 4 हिस्सों में डिवाइड कर सकते हैं. सबसे पहला वाला जो हिस्सा हमारे स्टमक का होता है उसे कहते हैं फंडस, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज फंडस. एंड द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ आवर स्टमक इज नोन एज द कार्डियक पार्ट ऑफ आवर स्टमक. एंड द थर्ड एंड द मेजर पार्ट ऑफ द स्टमक is called as body. This is the third part, and the last and the most important part of the stomach is known as pylorus. So stomach has been divided into 4 parts anatomically. It is divided into fundus. Okay, you will repeat with me. And next part is known as cardiac part, next part is known as body, and the last part is known as pylorus. Besides that, if we will be having a look from the external side of a stomach, we will find 2 curved structures or 2 curvatures. One will be from this side and another will be from this side. This greater side of the curvature of the stomach is known as greater curvature. It is known as greater curvature, and this very curvature is known as lesser curvature. If we will be having an external anatomical look over our stomach, it will be having a curvature from one side as well as from another side. From one side of the stomach there will be a greater curved side, and from the other side there will be a depressed lesser curved side. And this greater curved side of the stomach is known as greater curvature, and its opposite curvature is lesser, and which is having an inward depression like undulation, which is known as lesser curvature. And internally the stomach can be divided into fundus, it can be divided into cardiac part, it can be divided into body, and then it can be divided into the pyloric part. Besides that, if we will be having a look over the wall of the stomach, जो stomach का wall होता है, isn't it? It consists of 3 formations of muscular fibers. Why? Because I already told you that it is meant for churning of food. For the churning of the food, the stomach should consist of 3 formations of the muscle. One format of the muscle consists of longitudinal muscular fibers. They are unstrapped, and another format is known as circular muscular fibers. We are discussing the wall of the stomach, circular muscular fibers, and the third one are known as oblique or oblate muscular fibers. And it is because of the movements of these muscular fibers under various nerve these reflexes that they are exhibiting specific movements leading to the churning of food. So the wall of our stomach consists of what? Longitudinal fibers, circular fibers, oblique fibers. They are meant for churning of food. Besides that, the different parts of the stomach are meant for exhibition of different types of the functions. पहला हिस्सा जो आपके स्टमक का होता है, यहाँ पे गैस होता है, isn't it? अगर आपके स्टमक में गैस होता है because of the food या during the course of the salivation कुछ गैस आपके स्टमक में आया, या बैक्टीरियल ग्रोथ की वजह से यहाँ से कुछ गैस है, उसकी एंट्री यहाँ पे हुई, तो उस गैस का लाइट वेटेडनेस की होने की वजह से that is elevated up and that remains in the fundic part of our stomach. So you can be asked a question that in which part of the stomach gas remains mostly, the answer is the fundus. और जो दूसरा वाला हिस्सा होता है आपके स्टमक का, जिसको हम कार्डियक पार्ट कहते हैं, since our stomach is present towards the left side of our upper side of the abdominal cavity, जो आपकी abdominal cavity का upper और left side होता है, वहाँ पे आपका स्टमक होता है, और इसका जो कर्वेचर होता है, उसकी कर्वेचर की वजह से जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट इसका होता है, ये क्लोज रहता है विद योर हार्ट और कार्डियक रीजन, दैट इज व्हाई इट इज कॉल्ड एज कार्डियक पार्ट. तो बेटा जो आपके स्टमक का कार्डियक वाला पार्ट होता है, ठीक है, इसका काम होता है, ये रिसीव करता है इसोफेगस को. दिस पार्ट रिसीव्स इसोफेगस. सो आपने देखा जो आपके स्टमक का पहला हिस्सा होता है, दैट इज फंडस, एंड इट इज मेंट फॉर कीप एयर इन इट और गैस इन इट, एंड द सेकंड पार्ट इज नोन एज कार्डियक पार्ट. बेटा इसका काम क्या होता है? इट्स मेन वर्क इज टू रिसीव द एसोफेगस, इजंट इट? और जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट इसका होता है, दैट इज द बॉडी, और इस बॉडी का काम होता है दैट इट विल टेम्पोररली स्टोर फूड. इसका काम होता है स्टोरेज का. और बेटा उसके बाद जो नेक्स्ट पार्ट होता है आपके स्टोमक का, दैट इज कॉल्ड पाइलोरस. इसका काम होता है आपके स्टोमक में, पाइलोरस, आपके स्टोमक में जो फूड की डाइजेशन हुई है, उस डाइजेस्टेड फूड को फ्लूइड फॉर्म में ट्रांसपोर्ट करना टू द नेक्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ आवर डाइजेस्टिव ट्रैक्ट, दैट इज द डुओडेनम. ठीक है, तो इस पाइलोरस का ज्यादातर काम होता है ट्रांसपोर्टेशन. इसके अलावा जो इनकी एंडोक्राइन फंक्शंस है, या इनकी जो डिफरेंट डाइजेस्टिव ग्लैंड्स जो इनके अंदर होते हैं, फिजियोलॉजिकल फंक्शन है, वो हम फिजियोलॉजी वाले लेक्चर में डिस्कस करेंगे. लेकिन यहाँ पे आपने देखना है कि जो लास्ट पार्ट होता है आपके स्टोमक का, विच इज नोन एज पाइलोरस. एक्चुअली पाइलोरस कंसिस्ट्स ऑफ 2 पार्ट्स. नंबर 1, दिस वेरी पार्ट, जो आपके पाइलोरस का पहला हिस्सा होता है, इसको हम पाइलोरिक एंट्रम कहते हैं. This very part is called as pyloric antrum, ANTRUM. Isn't it? और जो इसका दूसरा वाला हिस्सा होता है वहां पे इंटरनली एक कनाल सी होती है, उसको हम बेटा कहते हैं पाइलोरिक कैनाल. This very part is known as pyloric canal. So let us have a look over the stomach. Our stomach externally has greater curvature, lesser curvature. It is divided into fundus meant for the gas, and it has cardiac part meant for reception of the esophagus. It has the body meant for the temporary storage of the food, then for its digestion, and then the last part is known as pylorus, which is divided into two parts. Number first part of the pylorus is known as pyloric antrum, and the second part is known as pyloric canal. And besides that, we should not rule out here one more thing, that we should point out here one more thing, that here is a presence of a sphincter, and another sphincter is present here. So stomach has two sphincters with respect to its entry point and exit point. The sphincter which is present at the entry point of the stomach in the cardiac region, that sphincter is known as cardiac sphincter. So the cardiac part also has cardiac sphincter, and the sphincter which is present in between the pyloric canal with the duodenum, that sphincter is known as pyloric sphincter. So here you will write down these two informative points, that is, one, the cardiac part consists of cardiac sphincter, it is guarded by cardiac sphincter, isn't it? And the next part of the pylorus or the pyloric canal, it consists of the pyloric sphincter. Why these sphincters are there? See, this cardiac sphincter protects the regurgitation of food, food regurgitation, and it also controls the movement of the chyme, controls or regulates chyme movement, ठीक है. तो बेटा इसका काम होता है कि ये जो आपने यहाँ पे बोलस को डाइजेस्ट किया हुआ है, नाउ दैट बोलस हैज बीन कन्वर्टेड इनटू द काइम, एंड इस काइम को ये आसानी से यहाँ इंटेस्टाइन में नहीं जाने देगा, इसके मूवमेंट को रेगुलेट करेगा, और उस रेगुलेशन के लिए ये पाइलोरिक स्फिंक्टर यहाँ पे होता है. और यहाँ पे अगर हमने फूड आइटम को लिया तो फूड आइटम को डाइजेस्ट डिसॉल्व करने के लिए पहले हमारे स्टमक के वाल से फ्रॉम द ऑक्जेंटिक सेल्स से एसिड सिक्रेट होता है. उस एसिड का रिफ्लेक्स हो सकता है, या वोमिटिंग हो सकती है, या रिगर्जिटेशन हो सकता है. इन सारी चीजों को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए यहाँ पे जो ये स्फिंक्टर होता है, दैट स्फिंक्टर इज नोन एज cardiac sphincter. And internally the stomach wall has some secretions, like we saw here, some secretions were present over the wall over the upper side of our hard part of the palate, which were called as palatine rugae. Similarly, some secretions are also present in our stomach from its internal side, and such secretions are called as gastric rugae. And when we will be putting more and more food to our stomach, then it is because of the expansion of these gastric rugae that our stomach can harbor, and then that it can store the food in larger and larger quantities. Then we have to study the next part of our gastrointestinal tract, that is our intestines. Our intestines are present in two formats. हमारे जो इंटेस्टाइन होते हैं वो दो तरह के होते हैं. आइदर दे आर स्मॉल or they are large. यहाँ पे एक चीज़ आप और भी याद रखोगे कि जो आपका स्टमक होता है इसकी जो लेंथ होती है वो ऑलमोस्ट 30 सेंटीमीटर्स की होती है, ठीक है, इसकी लेंथ। और इसकी जो बेटा विड्थ होती है, ब्रेडथ होती है, वो ऑलमोस्ट 15 सेंटीमीटर्स की होती है, 15 सेंटीमीटर्स, 30 centimeters and 15 centimeters. And then intestines, so far as small intestines are concerned, they are more than 5 meters and they are more than 1.5 meters. The longest parts of our gastrointestinal tracts are our small intestines and our large intestines. तो जो बेटा हमारा स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन होता है, इट हैज फर्दर बी डिवाइडेड इनटू 3 पार्ट्स. द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ द स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन व्हिच हैज डायरेक्ट कम्युनिकेशन विद द पाइलोरिक कैनाल, दैट पार्ट ऑफ द स्मॉल इंटेस्टाइन इज नोन एज duodenum. That part is known as duodenum. And the next important part of our small intestine is known as jejunum. And the third important part of the small intestine is known as ileum. So small intestines have been divided into 3 parts. Number first part is duodenum, which has direct communication with the pyloric canal, and number second part of the small intestine is known as jejunum, and number third important part of the small intestine is known as ileum. This so far as our duodenum is concerned, it is almost 25 centimeters long. 25 centimeters long. It is almost of the same length of our esophagus. And the next part of the small intestine, that is the jejunum, it is almost 2.4 meters. Not centimeters but meters in this length. And after that, the third important part of the small intestine, that is the ileum, and this is the longest part of our small intestines, that is almost 3.6 meters long. 3.6 meters long. Small intestine is divided into duodenum, then jejunum, then ileum. Duodenum is almost 25 centimeters, jejunum is almost 2.4 meters, and then the ileum is almost 3.6 meters. Here you will remember one thing, that the ileal part of our small intestines internally has specified these undulational structures which are known as Pellicae circularis. Here you will remember one more thing, internally ileum part of the small intestine consists of Pellicae circularis. Pellicae circularis. Pellicae circularis are the some specified undulational structures, like we saw some gastric rugae, we saw some these palatine rugae. Similarly, some smaller undulational structures are present in mostly the ileal part of our small intestine, which are known as Pellicae circularis. And so far as the physiology of our digestive system is concerned, the most part of the digestion of our food takes place in our small intestines. Then after completion of the small intestines, then there is the beginning of the large intestines, and the first part of the large intestine, is known as cecum. The first part of large intestine is known as cecum, and second part of the large intestine is the colon. This and the third important part is known as rectum, then there is anus. So, we can also divide the large intestines into the different parts, and the different parts of the large intestines are cecum, here it is cecum, and then there is cecum, then there is colon, and then there is rectum, isn't it? Then there is rectum. So, we can divide the large intestine into three important parts, that is cecum, colon and rectum. So far as the length of the cecum is concerned, it is just 6 centimeters long. But here you will have to remember one thing, so far as the anatomy of our smaller and the large intestines are concerned, the first part of the large intestine is known as cecum, and here is a value. Here is a value which communicates the cecum or the canal of the cecum with the canal of the ileum. That junction which is present in between ileum and cecum, that very junction has a specific value. That value is called as ileocecal value. Ileocecal value. It regulates the movement of the fluid food from the ileum into the cecum, isn't it? This value is known as ileocecal value, and after completion of just 6 centimeters of this cecum, then there is next part of our large intestine, that is known as colon, and the colon consists of 3 parts. One part is towards the anterior region, it is drifted towards the upper region. Say this is the first part of our colon, and that first part of the colon is known as ascending colon. But this very part is known as ascending colon, isn't it? And then there is another part of the colon which is known as transverse colon. This very part is known as transverse colon, and then there is last part which is present at the left side of our abdominal cavity. In the left side of our abdominal cavity, that very part is known as descending colon. So, colon has been divided into its 3 parts. One important part of the colon is known as its ascending colon, another is transverse colon, and the third important part of the colon is known as what? Descending colon. So, we can divide the colon into 3 parts: ascending, transverse and descending. For the anatomical study of this colon, we have to remember 2 more important things. That is, here it is one sort of curvature which is present at the right side of within the right side of our abdominal cavity, and this very part is present within the left side of our abdominal cavity. This very curved part of our colon, which is present in between the transverse colon and ascending colon, this very part is known as right or hepatic celiac flexure. It is known as hepatic flexure. This very part is known as hepatic flexure or right celiac flexure, or this is known as right celiac flexure, and similarly this very part is called as left celiac flexure. This left celiac flexure is also known as splenic flexure. It is also known as splenic flexure. And we have to remember one more thing, that is the large intestines are having some similar internal mucosal these undulational structures which are called as tine coli. So far as these muscular fibers are of the large intestines are concerned, there are three formats of the muscular fibers, like longitudinal muscles are there, transverse are there, oblate are there, and they combine with one another and ultimately they result in the formation of specific undulational structures which are collectively called as tine coli. These are called as tine coli. Presence of tine coli in our large intestines is their characteristic feature, and presence of internal these pellicae circulares of our small intestines is their contrasting characteristic feature. Besides that, there are some other undulation structures about which we will come to know in our coming lectures, in which we will be discussing the appendices, appendices, circularis or epicircularis, that we will be discussing in our coming lectures. And so we have seen here the three parts of the colon are ascending, transverse are descending. Here this very flexure is known as right cephalic, right hepatic flexure or right celiac flexure. It is known as left celiac flexure. And then there is next part of our large intestines, and that next part is little bit slight S-shaped, and that is called as sigmoid colon. That very part is called as, now I will write down that here because there is little space left in my board now. That is called as sigmoid colon. So we have divided the colon into ascending, into transverse, into descending, and sigmoid. And after this sigmoid colon, there is this part, and this very part is known as rectum. This part is known as rectum. Then there is this anal canal, rectum, then there is anal canal, and after anal canal there is the opening of our digestive tube, that is called as anus. So after completion of the intestines, there we have seen the anal canal. Here we have seen anal canal, which is almost 2.5 centimeters long, and then there is opening, that is known as anus. This anus is guarded by another sphincter which is present both internal as well as the external, and that very sphincter is known as anal sphincter. Anal sphincter. Now the function of anal sphincter is the protection of the fecal matter or the feces to get this unwanted exit from the anal canal or from this rectum. So anal sphincter is responsible for regulation of the fecal matter movements and its respective exit from the anus, and this pyloric sphincter is responsible for the regulation of chyme into the duodenum, and this cardiac sphincter is responsible for the regulation of the regurgitation of what? Of food which was present in our stomach. Besides that, our digestive system consists of some accessory structures. The most important accessory structures which are present associated with our digestive system are these salivary glands, or liver, and pancreas. And there are three types of the salivary glands which are present associated with the human digestive system. One important and the largest, this gland of or the salivary gland is known as parotid gland, another gland is known as sublingual gland, and another gland is known as submaxillary gland. See, we have three types of the salivary glands: parotid, sublingual, and submaxillary gland. And here it is parotid gland, and this parotid gland, once it synthesizes the saliva, then it incorporates the saliva into our pharynx or the oral cavity via this duct. It has its own duct, since it is not an endocrine gland, it is an exocrine gland, and the duct which pours the saliva into the buccal cavity and collects the same from the parotid gland is known as Sittinson's duct. This is known as Sittinson's duct. So, Sittinson's duct transports the saliva from parotid gland into the buccal cavity. And then there is another format of the salivary gland that are known as sublingual gland. Sublingual glands are present underlying our tongue. हमारी जो टांग होती है उसके नीचे सबलिंगुअल ग्लैंड्स होती है और इनका अपना दूसरा डक्ट होता है. This duct is known as ravenous duct. So, ravenous duct or duct of ravenous is responsible for ravenous duct. It drains the sublingual gland and transports its contents or the saliva into the buccal cavity. And then there is third type of the salivary gland, that is submaxillary gland. It has again its own and respective duct, and that very duct is known as duct of Watson or Watson's duct or Watson's duct. So, we have seen, so far as the accessory structures of our digestive system is concerned, we have seen that we have three types of salivary glands: parotid, sublingual, and submaxillary. Parotid glands are located just close to our internal ears, isn't it? And sublingual glands are located just beneath our tongue, and submaxillary glands are located just beneath our upper right and left side of our maxilla. And all the three respective salivary glands have their respective ducts, and they are named accordingly. The duct which is of the parotid gland is known as Sittinson's duct, and the duct of sublingual gland is known as duct of ravenous or ravenous duct, and the duct of submaxillary gland is known as Watson's duct. Besides that, we have another accessory digestive structure, that is liver. Since liver is called the heat engine of the body, metabolic engine of the body, it constitutes so many functions like detoxification of the food, synthesis of the RBCs in the early stages of our life or the fetal stages of the life, and and it also constitutes the metabolism of the hemoglobin and many these activities, many functions that we will be discussing in our coming lectures. But here we have to discuss the liver as an accessory digestive structure. Why it is the accessory digestive structure? Because it is the liver which helps in the synthesis of the bile which consists of bile salts, bile pigments like sodium glycolate, sodium tarcholate, which we will come to know in our coming lectures, that they have important role for the process of digestion of the lipids. But here we have to discuss the anatomy of the digestive system and the anatomy of its accessory structures. The lower liver is present in the abdominal cavity. Upper right abdominal cavity has liver, and it has a smaller bag like structure which is known as gallbladder. This very bag like structure is known as gallbladder. When liver synthesizes the bile, then the bile is incorporated into this duct, and then some bile is put for the storage purpose into this gallbladder. And this duct, which is present towards the one or the smaller lobe of the liver, this very duct is known as right hepatic duct, and this is known as left hepatic duct. One duct towards the right side which is present in our liver is known as right hepatic duct, and another one is known as left hepatic duct, isn't it? Then they get combined with one another. This duct will come, and they will form a common duct, and that very common duct is called as common hepatic duct, isn't it? And here it has its own duct which gets combined with this common hepatic duct. Then this another duct is present here which is known as cystic duct. This very duct is known as cystic duct. See, right hepatic duct will come, it will meet with the left hepatic duct. They will form a common duct, that is common bile duct, and they will be combined with the duct which comes from the gallbladder, and that very duct is known as cystic duct. Then all such ducts or canals will combine with one another, and they will result in the formation of a common duct. That very common duct is known as common bile duct. This is known as common bile duct. Sometimes there is formation of calculi like structures in the gallbladder. Then their surgeons remove the gallbladder from our abdominal cavity. Then at that time, if anybody will ask you that is that patient in a situation that he can digest the fats under the influence of the bile? Obviously he can, because if this gallbladder is not present, अगर आपके पास gallbladder है ही नहीं, इसको रिमूव किया गया है, तो बाकी तो डक्ट्स मौजूद हैं. आपका common bile duct यहाँ पे है, isn't it? आपका right hepatic duct है, left hepatic duct है. They will directly incorporate the bile into the duodenum, isn't it? They will incorporate that into the duodenum via common bile duct. And we will be discussing the functions of the bile and the functions of the gallbladder in our coming lectures. Here, in order to explain well the anatomy of the digestive system and the anatomy of the accessory structures, we have right hepatic duct, left hepatic duct, common hepatic duct, cystic duct, then common bile duct, isn't it? And this common bile duct is combined with another duct which comes from your pancreas, another accessory digestive structure, and then it results in the formation of another most important duct, that is called as hepato-pancreatic duct or HPD. What is hepato-pancreatic duct? Hepato-pancreatic duct is that duct which collects the secretion from the ducts which come from the pancreas and from the duct which come from the liver and gallbladder. So, hepatopancreatic duct is the means of transportation of both the secretions. One is bile and another is secretion from your pancreas. And this pancreas has different lobes about which we will be having a thorough discussion in our coming lectures. But here we should know that this pancreas is acting as an accessory digestive structure, and this pancreas is drained with its pancreatic duct. Then this pancreatic duct combines with the common bile duct, then they form the common hepatopancreatic duct, and this hepatopancreatic duct empties itself into the duodenum, and that very region of the duodenum is called as ampulla of Vater. Here you will remember one more thing, that this very region is called as ampulla. Here it is an ampullary structure which is known as ampulla of Vater, isn't it? And this ampulla of Vater is guarded by another sphincter which regulates the entry of this hepatopancreatic juice into the duodenum. That very sphincter is known as sphincter of Oddi. Sphincter of Oddi, isn't it? So, sphincter of Oddi is present over the ampulla of the Vater. It is responsible for the regulation of the movement of the hepatopancreatic juice into the duodenum, the functions of which about that we will be discussing in our coming lectures. And the hepatopancreatic duct, here it is guarded by a sphincter which is known as sphincter of Oddi. Besides that, our pancreas also consists of another accessory pancreatic duct. It consists of another accessory pancreatic duct. What is the role of the liver? What is the role of this pancreas? What is the role of these salivary glands in the process of the digestion? That we will be discussing in our coming lectures. But today we will be concluding here. Let us sum up our today's lecture. In our today's lecture, we discussed the anatomy of digestive system of human beings. In the digestive system of the human beings, we saw there is mouth, buccal cavity, pharynx, esophagus, stomach, intestines, which are divided into smaller and larger parts, and the two openings of the gastrointestinal tract are mouth and anus. One is meant for ingestion, another is meant for egestion. The first part of the our digestive system constitutes the mouth, which is externally guarded by the lips, and inside the lips there is a space known as the vestibule, and after vestibule there is presence of the teeth in our gums, which are present in two formatus milk teeth and the permanent teeth. And the formula for milk teeth is 2 and 2 divided by 2 and 2 multiplied by 2, and the formula for permanent teeth is 2 1 2 3 divided by 2 1 3 2 3 multiplied by 2. So far as the number of the permanent teeth are concerned, they are 32, and so far as the number of our these milk teeth are concerned, they are 20 in numbers. And our teeth are present in the form of the incisors, canines, premolars and molars. Some are meant for grinding, some are meant for tearing, some are meant for cutting, some are meant for biting. Besides that, our buccal cavity also consists of the palate, which has the anterior hard palate, hard region, and the posterior the soft region. Soft region consists of a vola, and the anterior region consists of the palatine rugae. We also saw that our oral cavity also consists of a muscular tongue, which consists of the secretal or the septal muscles, whose movements are in our direct control under our will. And our tongue consists of lingual frenulum. It is attached with the help of lingual frenulum. It has sulcus terminalis, and the central region of which has a perforated structure which is known as the foramen cecum. And our tongue consists of Folate Papillae, fungiform papillae, folate papillae, filiform papillae, and our tongue also consists of the taste buds, which are meant for the perception of different types of the taste like sweet, salty, bitter, sour are there. Then we saw that our oral cavity is being amputated into the another tube-like structure which is almost 12 cm long, known as the pharynx, and that pharynx is divided into three parts, that is the oropharynx, that is the nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. That nasopharynx is that very first part of the pharynx in which there are present openings of our nasal passages. Then there is oropharynx, which has the direct communication with the oral cavity. Then there is laryngopharynx, which has direct communication with the larynx. The opening of the larynx is known as glottis, and which is being guarded by a specific lid-like structure which is known as epiglottis, meant for the entry of the unnecessary food items or any type of the food item during the course of the salivation into the larynx. Then we saw another part of the digestive tube, that is the esophagus. We saw that the esophagus internal lining consists of the stratified squamous epithelial lining, and the same stratified squamous epithelial lining is present in the lower part of the pharynx as well. And this esophagus consists of different types of the muscular fibers. Some are in our direct control, some are not in our direct control. Its anterior part consists of most of the secretal muscle fibers. Then the middle part consists of the mixed these muscle fibers. It means the middle part of the esophagus will be consisting of what? It will be consisting of the striated as well as unstriated muscular fibers. Then the last part of this our esophagus will be consisting of only the striated muscle fibers. Then it empatizes itself into the cardiac part of the stomach, which is being the opening of this or the communicating region of this, and this is consisting of a specific sphincter known as the cardiac sphincter. Then we saw our stomach, which consists of greater curvature and the lesser curvature, and it has different parts. Fundus meant for gas. It has this cardiac part which has direct communication with the esophagus, and another part that is the body meant for the storage of the food. Then the pylorus, which is divided into the pyloric antrum and pyloric canal, and it is meant for secretion of different these endocrine hormones, and the function of which we will be discussing in our coming lectures. And then after pyloric canal there is the beginning of the small intestines, and the junction between the beginning of the small intestine with the pyloric canal is actually guarded by a sphincter which is known as pyloric sphincter, which regulates the movement of the unnecessary movement of the chyme into the duodenum. Then the intestines are divided into two types. First part of the intestine is small intestine, next part of the intestine is the large intestine. Small intestines have been divided into three parts, that is duodenum, that is jejunum, that is ileum, and the ileum part of the small intestine consists of the pellicae circularis, about which we discussed, and then we saw that there is a value which is present in between the last part of the end of the ileum with the first part of the large intestine, that is known as ileocecal value. And then we saw there is a long 6 centimeter long almost first part of the large intestine, that is known as the cecum. Then there is colon, which is divided into three regions, ascending, transverse and the descending, which has two specific flexures. One is known as right celiac flexure, another is known as left celiac flexure. It is also known as hepatic flexure because it is very close to the liver, and this is known as the splenic flexure, which is close to the spleen. And besides that there is another structure which is present just after the completion of this cecum. That very structure is vestigial, is considered to be the vestigial, and that vestigial structure is known as the appendix. This very structure is known as appendix. Sometimes the infection of the appendix or infection of the intestines can lead to the inflammation of the appendix, for which we have to remove then the appendix, and the process is called as appendectomy. And this appendix is almost 8 centimeters in length. It is considered vestigial, but nowadays science is saying that it is responsible for the synthesis of different types of the maturation of the lymphocytes and synthesis of some defensive cells, about which we will come to later. We will come to know later in our later classes. And after this appendix there is ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon. Then after completion of descending colon there is S-shaped sigmoid colon. Then there is rectum. After completion of the rectum there is anal canal. Then there is anus. So with this we have concluded our today's lecture. Dear students, if you are liking my lectures, I request you one thing, that get my channel subscribed so that you will get the notifications of all my lectures on daily basis, and you will be benefited accordingly, and the pending portion of your syllabus will be